Welcome to Tiny Garage Fabrication, the show where I either make it or break it. Today, I'm going to put the carpet in the truck and show you how I mark everything to put the holes in the right places so that you can screw stuff down and have stuff come through it. And then I'm going to lay out my wiring harness. Hopefully I get it routed the way I want it to, and keep moving along with that project. I got my carpet in here. Got the pedals in, all three of the pedals, including the throttle. Looks kind of cool. But anyway, what I've been doing with the carpet in here is I've been going through and then finding where I have holes, and I've been punching through with a scratch awl and then circling it in a paint marker, so that way, see, I did this on some of the stuff on the rear now. So there's one, and there's one, and where my parking brake comes through the floor right there. This is also, I know exactly where I need to make cuts in this carpet. I'm going to cut a flap right there so that my wiring can go through. I've epoxied these grommets in place so that my wiring can go, because those ones are going to have to be actually above the carpet, because when the tray slides out they need to articulate. The rest of the wiring will be under the carpet, but those have to actually go through the carpet, so that's why I needed to get this all in place, get the carpet cut, that way we can get the wiring in. I spent a lot of time today working on the wiring. It doesn't really look like much all tangled up here, but I went through and I continued to sort everything where it needs to go. Put it into this Tessa tape loom. Can't really see that very well, but it's a cloth, kind of like a fleece tape. And so now everything is routed in the bits where they go to where they need to go, and everything's just kind of set up so I can run it through the truck, because I want to be able to get this ran where it needs to go so I can start terminating all the ends. I can get the carpet in, I can get the seats in, I can really just start finishing this thing out. So that's what I got done today. I'm still working on it a little bit. I'm going to keep cutting on that carpet. I'm going to try to get the wiring harness laid completely into the cab with the carpet down. That way I can go ahead and call it quits on this thing for today. Tomorrow I'm going to work on plumbing the air lines for the airbags. I've got some special stuff in store for that. Should be pretty cool. I'm also probably going to lay the air ride controller in and then possibly mock up where I'm going to put the compressor, the tank, and the valve bodies, the valve block. So that's it for now. I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Alright, it's the last day of this long weekend, getting ready to continue wiring this truck. I thought that was the most pertinent thing to do, because I've said it before that once the wiring is in, basically the cab on the wiring, everything kind of grows from there. So with any luck I should be able to get the wiring in, get everything else put in, and I shouldn't have to backtrack to this moment. So once the wiring's in, if I need to pull the engine in and out, engine can come in and out. If I need to pull the front sheet metal on and off, sheet metal can come on and off. But I wanted to get all the stuff laid in place, that way I can start to put the sheet metal on. For instance, like if I put on the inner fenders and the fenders and test fitted the front end, I'd have to tear it all down again so that I can run the wiring. So I can run the wiring, then put the stuff on around it. It just makes more sense this way. I don't get as much done, it doesn't feel, because it's like a small item that you see, but it's a huge item as far as the the workings of the truck. So let me show you what I got done here. And all right, the carpet's in. I've cut all the holes for where the seats are going to bolt in, where the e-brake is. I haven't cut the hole for the shifter yet. That's going to come later. I've cut the hole for the steering column, for the dimmer switch, and I cut all the access holes for the wiring. So a little flap here that goes to those two grommets, so front end, engine. This here is the harness that's going to go to the dash, and there's the harness that goes to the taillights. Now there's going to be another harness on the other side that's going to go back and run through that same hole right there, and that is for the Accuair. I know I've said this has Accuair. You might be looking at that going, wait a minute, that's different than everything else I've ever seen. Well, you're right, it is, because that is a Gen 1 Accuair. I got this on Craigslist. I saw it work. I got it for dirt cheap. It was 125 bucks maybe. Way better than the $2,000 of a brand new one, but this still has ride height sensors, 3-level presets, all the stuff that the new one has, just in a bigger body with different switches. So it's going to work. It's going to be cool. Things I still have to do is, and you can see this, for instance, this wire right here. This is for the horn switch. Well, the horn switch is going to be all the way up here in the steering column. So I need to extend that wire so it can run through here, behind this, run all the way up the passenger side of the trans tunnel, up to the top of the dash, and then to wherever it needs to go. So, it's going to take a lot of extra wire. However, this isn't my first rodeo. Here's a bundle of wires. Here's another bundle of wires. Now, these are all good quality wires. A lot of them are labeled. They may not be labeled the exact same as that, which is something I'm going to have to deal with. But these all came from, as well as this mess of wires here. I keep a drawer in my Vidmar that says wire harness extras. So I got a whole bunch of other stuff in there next to my wire ties, as well as some additional wiring up here. So all this came from another kit that I've used on another vehicle in the past, whether it was my 57 Chevy, my 69 Suburban. And I think that's all I've gotten done in the past. But I've also said it before, the main thing that I do whenever I get an old vehicle project, all the original wiring comes out, every single inch of it, and I start from scratch. So I'll come up here, you know, I got all this stuff ran. It's not completely ran yet, but it's through the holes, and I'm going to go through. Here's the engine harness, and here's the front end harness. Now, I'm going to be cutting a lot of these wires off, and some of this wire I can recycle back into making the dash harness a little bit longer. So, some things to figure out. Still a whole lot more to do. So, without any further ado, I'm going to shut this thing off, I'm going to do some wiring, and I'll get back to you in a bit. Man, I'll tell you what, some days I'm just not that good at what I think I might be good at. So, wiring, I'm actually an electrician by trade, so I do kind of take pride in my wiring jobs on trucks. And this one, everything was going really good. It's still going really good. Thing is, I just had a slight oversight, so my gauges came with new senders. And I'm like, oh, you know, no problem, I'll just wire the stuff that's in the wiring harness for the senders. There's one for oil, there's one for water. And that was good, except once I finally actually got in the box, opened it up. So here's my new sender. It comes with this super awesome plug with, hard to see, but multiple wires. I don't have multiple wires in my harness, so I kind of need the plug. So here's the speedometer sensor. Again, came with its own plug. And the oil sender is, I actually just installed it. Get a quick shot of that. But what I'm going to have to do is, she's back in there. Kind of hard to see. But oil pressure sender's in place. And here's the wire. So this one here actually has 4 wire. Well, there's a cable shield, a ground, sensor power, and sensor signal. So I was like, man, I'm gonna have to unwrap all that harness that I put in. Well, I'm not going to, because I did take the time to add one extra grommet right about here underneath the carpet, kind of by the passenger seat. Now, it's a full-size grommet, just like the other one, so I can run a lot of wires through it. The reason I put that there is because I knew that I had to get the power to the reverse light sensor on the transmission. And that was going to go through the dash sensor, so I was going to route it over there. So it's kind of cool. I still have that. All these pigtails look like I'm going to have plenty of length to get from the sender back under the seat. So not too worried about it. It's just, I should have opened the box and looked at all the senders before I ran all the wires. But it's not a big deal. At least now I have enough holes to plug up that grommet that I ran through there. So, you know, thought it was a big deal. Turned out it's not. Anyway, I'm going to get back to this. Alright, well, been working my butt off today. I got a whole lot done. The tiny garage is a huge disaster. I just have wiring and bits and tape and just all kinds of junk all over the place. But let me show you what I got done, and I'm going to call it a night. So, as you can see here, I got the wiring under the carpet. I got everything kind of routed where it needs to go. And here's the loom that's going to go to the dash. Just a whole bunch of stuff. Now, due to how thick that is, I'm not really pleased with how it sits under the carpet. So what I may do, I'm going to see how feasible it is to run it straight out the back, to go through this hole, to run it down to the frame rail forward, and then actually have it come in the top of this here, which is my, let's see, that's the steering column cover panel. Have it come out through here and go straight up between the clutch and the brake line, or the clutch and the brake pedals. So I'm going to see if that might work, and then, because from there it's a pretty good shot straight to the dash, to all that stuff. So I'm going to see how feasible that is. I kind of like the idea. That may be how I go with it. But I still have some stuff to terminate out here. I just kind of got things placed more or less where they need to go. A whole lot more cleaning up to do though. Well, rats. Turns out I don't like the way the wire is routed, at least not the portion that goes up to the dash. Also, I did mess up when I extended a lot of those wires. I went to Lowe's and I bought some wire. Some of it was okay. Some of it turned out to be kind of the interior or I don't know, residential type wiring. It's not as flexible and it doesn't seem to have the right like coating on it. So I'm going to cut all that junk out. I shouldn't have even put it in, honestly. I know better than that. But I'm going to cut it all out. I'm going to get better wire. I'm going to resplice all those. And I am going to go under the cab and the firewall up to the steering column plates, kind of like how I showed. So it's going to take a lot longer. I have even more stuff to do. But it's going to be for the best. It's going to make for a cleaner install total. You know, stuff like this happens. It happens to me. I can have the best plan ever, and then I'll put it into production or I'll execute it, and it just doesn't end up perfect. And now granted, I'm not a perfectionist. This truck is far from perfect, but I'd like to get it to be as good as it possibly can. And with it running under the carpet the way it was, it's just not there. So we're going to run it under the truck for a more clean look. And, you know, I truly know that it's by far the best option. It's going to be another couple hours of work, but that's just how it goes. So, if you like what you see on this channel, please subscribe, hit that like button, send me some comments, and until the next video, let's keep building cool stuff. Thanks, everybody.